Morning, everyone. So today I'm going to be speaking at the Ontario Student Leadership Conference in Niagara Falls. I'm debuting a new keynote called Ignite Your Voice, which is a play off of my original keynote, Find Your Fire, that actually got me into public speaking. So come along with me today to enjoy the trip, enjoy the travel, enjoy the keynote, and I'll share a few tidbits along the way of how I actually made this possible and how I became a public speaker. So it's about 10 o'clock right now. Outside of my job as a public speaker, I run my own marketing collective. So I'm just wrapping up some work for our clients and then getting my contractors all set up for the day. We're going to start heading to Niagara Falls. I speak in a few hours from now. So we're going to get there, get to the conference, get some lunch, and then get going for the day. You've actually gone ahead and booked the keynote. Preparing for a keynote for me looks different every single time I go to a conference. I think it's really understanding your audience. So not only having the topics that you want to speak on, but really making sure that it's stories that connect with the audience that's coming in. So for this conference in particular, I knew it was a student leadership conference, so I wanted to make sure that my stories reflected some of my experiences in things like high school and college, because it would be relatable to that age range. I absolutely love what they did at the Ontario Student Leadership Conference this year to make me a part of the conference as a superhero. I thought that was a really nice touch. So I think my biggest tip to prepare is just make sure to really understand your audience before you go in, and the stories that you tell, ensure that they are from a part of your life that is similar to the audience you're speaking to. So usually after one of my talks, I have my fiance debrief me on everything that I said, which is funny to think about, but when you're up there, you kind of forget those things. So it's always nice to be able to chat and talk about what we accomplished. Niagara Falls was the most beautiful location for this conference. I absolutely love coming back to the Ontario Student Leadership Conference every year. It's one of the wonders of the world, and I'm so grateful to be able to speak there. If you've made it this far in the video, there's a voice that you have. There's a stage that's meant for you, and there's some story or some workshop or something about you that you want to bring to the next stage. And I hope this video shares a little bit about my journey so that you can implement it into your own life. So for a bit of background, of course, I run my own marketing collective, and my first public speaking gig that I ever got was through my marketing collective. So I went and emailed quite a few small business centers, let them know about my company, and was able to speak across Southwestern Ontario at a few small business centers. Obviously, this topic was more about marketing, but it was getting me out and comfortable with speaking to large groups of people. So tangibly getting started, though, I wanted to kind of share a few tips and tricks that I found along the way that made it a lot easier for me when I was just getting started. So let's say you have an interest in becoming a public speaker, you potentially have some credibility with your work, your community, something like that, and you want to apply to your first stage. Now, in the beginning, there's going to be two options. There's going to be self-representation and then working with a major agency, brand, something like that that's going to boost you further. So for me in the beginning, I did actually try and apply to quite a few different public speaking bureaus without really any luck. When I was getting started, I didn't have a speaker reel or a TED Talk or any of those industry standards in the beginning, because how would you at the start? So I found that I wasn't really getting the traction that I was hoping to for bureaus. So that's where I started my own email marketing strategy. So I started emailing quite a few conferences, like I said, business centers, and just letting them know a little bit about me, what I do, and that I would be interested in public speaking. I would say small business centers worked in the beginning because I owned a marketing company, so it was really easy for me to explain, I have a marketing company, I want to come speak about marketing, and that momentum was met with a lot of positivity because, again, I was already in the space. But with public speaking, that's just me as a random person being like, hey guys, I want to public speak. And they would be like, what are you talking about? We have no idea what you could possibly bring to the stage. So I found in the first few years, it was a lot of no's. It was a lot of, we don't think this is the right fit, which at the time was hard for me to understand. But looking back, I completely get it because they don't exactly know without any video content proof or things like that what I'm going to get up there and say. So what I started doing was creating a signature keynote that I wanted to bring to a very specific conference. So key tip number one is when you're getting interested in public speaking, number one, try and attend the conference that you want to speak at. And then number two, tailor that very first speech to that conference. Because when you try and kind of tailor a much larger grasp, I feel like it can often be missed by a lot of conferences because you're keeping it more general. Or if you target that initial keynote to, I want to speak at this conference, this is the age range, this is like the target things that I want to talk about, I just think that goes a little bit of a long way. So second tip would definitely be target that first pitch to that first conference. And so I think, truthfully, one thing that really changed the game for me was when I stopped calling myself or referring in the email as like, hey, I'm Ashley, I'm a public speaker, and I referred to myself as, hi, I'm Ashley. I do this signature keynote called Find Your Fire. This is objectively what you would see from it, and this is objectively the age range that works for it. And so instead of branding myself originally, at least, as a public speaker, I branded myself almost as like a product that a conference could buy into. And the reason I feel like that is so important is because in the beginning, you won't have that TED Talk, that speaker reel, that thing that can sell you moving forward. And so this video specifically, I want to talk about the beginning stage, right? Of like, you have this story, you have this drive, but you need to get onto that first stage to go to more stages. So once I decided that Find Your Fire was going to be the thing, I would send out these emails very curated to the specific conference, but also almost as that Find Your Fire was a product as opposed to me as the speaker. And eventually I was able to land my very first speaking conference. And then from there, you can build up the video files and the things like that, which is something we can talk about much more in another video. But I do think that there's something so unique and special about thinking about your keynote in the beginning as a product, because it can take you that much further. So I think top 3 roundups would be, in the beginning, think of your keynote as a product. It's a lot easier for conferences to buy in. When you're thinking about building out that product, think about one conference specifically, and tailor it to that. And then where possible, go to that conference, attend, show them that you have bought in, that you are involved, that you are a part of the community, because I think that goes so much further in establishing that relationship. So again, those are my first 3 tips. If this is helpful at all, please let me know in the comments below. If you have more questions about, we can literally break down what that email looks like and everything like that, I'm happy to do it. I hope these resources are helpful for somebody who's just looking to get started on their journey. So thanks for being here. Subscribe for more, and let's do this all together.